Welcome to the Customer Catalyst Conference 2021, to our session focusing on customer voice, with Stan Swinton, Vice President of Global Care and Customer Experience, Deliveroo. When Deliveroo's founder and CEO Will Shu moved to London in 2013, he discovered a city full of great restaurants, but he was amazed that so few of them delivered food. A thought that resulted in a multi-million revenue business within 8 years. Stan Swinton looks at the importance of customer voice, how it can guide growth, what you can learn, and how to build it into your strategy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stanford Swinton. I'm the Global Vice President of Customer Experience and Care at Deliveroo. Deliveroo is a leading food delivery application and platform serving customers, restaurants, and riders in roughly 12 markets around the world. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the learnings and best practices from our experience in terms of building a world-class customer care organization at Deliveroo. As we think about the role of care within our value proposition, I just wanted to position that before we jump in and talk about specifics of the case study. As we think about customer value proposition, this is probably pretty similar to a number of consumer-facing businesses, but for us, there are really 5 key components to our value proposition. The first is availability. So are we in the region? Do we offer a product or a service to any individual customer? What times of day are we available? What products we offer? The next is selection. So within the platform itself, obviously having a broad selection of choices when it comes to grocery delivery, hot food delivery, and other last mile delivery categories is part of the value proposition. The next is the price and value that we assign to the products, the delivery fees, the perception around the costs of ordering on a platform versus going down to a store and taking away the food or eating out at a restaurant. The experience, obviously, that the customer has as they go to sign up, order. If we're talking about the restaurant, the onboarding experience, and if we're talking about our riders, obviously the sort of onboarding and ongoing experience of using our apps and receiving orders. And then finally, the brand love and brand equity that we build through our community initiatives and our positioning in the market. So care quite naturally fits underneath this pillar of experience, and it is quite an important component of the experience when you think about the number of customers in any given year who will come to care. Whenever anything goes wrong, whether that's a restaurant struggling to work the app or the tablet, in the restaurant and place orders and receive orders, whether that's a consumer who's struggling to find the rider, who's trying to deliver their food, or who's had a problem with their food, contacting care, or whether that's a rider, for example, having issues getting paid for the work that they're doing. Any issues upstream will come to care at some point, and so it's a huge part of our value proposition for our customers. It's also a real opportunity for us to differentiate because, and this is true, I think, in many industries, often care is seen as a sort of cost center to the business first, and finding ways to cut the costs around providing that service for customers is the priority, rather than delivering the true world-class customer experience. That's why many of us get frustrated holding lines or in endless chatbot loops trying to get a hold of actually somebody who can help us, whether that's with airlines, telcos, you name it, most industries. Lucky to be working at a company where our number one company value is customer obsession, and we are strong believers in the fact that a great customer service experience will set us apart from our competition and allow us to win in our chosen markets. And so, some of the I guess the pretext to this case study today is that we do have excellent executive alignment and support at Deliveroo around building a world-class care organization. And that really is a very important part of positioning this as we go forward. So I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit as we kick off here. Care 2020, what did it look like, and where have we gone since then from a case study perspective? Well, when I joined at the very beginning of 2020 to run this department, we essentially had 12 independent care organizations. So each market ran their own care team. We had care personnel scattered throughout the globe. Very inconsistent standards, policies, etc. We had operations that essentially ran separately to core capabilities such as training or vendor management, which sat outside of operations. We had no real-time monitoring. We had very minimal sort of de minimis quality controls. We had 2 vendors that were essentially supporting a couple markets and a couple languages, but without dedicated management of those vendor relationships. So basically we were just paying invoices, and that was the extent of our interaction with those vendors. And then we had a number of L2 type functions, so level 2 support that was being run regionally or in market, in-house, and we had no central way to escalate serious issues, so no central level 3 support. As well, our policies were largely managed by customer communications, so we didn't have the ability to track and standardize our policies across our markets. So we really had a care organization that was at a very early stage in its development. So what did we do from there? I guess we kicked off a transformation program that is essentially sort of coming to the end of its time. It was essentially a 2-year plan, and we're now refreshing our next essentially 2 to 3 years of priorities and roadmap for care. Within those last this transformation plan, we had a number of key ingredients for success. The first one was our partner commercials and practices. So we really had very lax controls over our commercial arrangements with our partners, and then with our sort of standard operating rhythm with our partners and operating model. Those really needed to be revisited. Also, the operating model and the team building, so the way we were structured internally. So on the first one, we really clarified our account mapping. We worked with our vendors to clean their benches. In fact, we had to go through and ask them to remove a number of people from the campaign who were underperforming at a management level and replace them with new leadership. We actually moved out of one large-scale vendor relationship entirely, given the existing quality of that support, and move into new relationships. And we put in place risk and reward within the commercials to reward the partners, but also there is some sort of downside to partners commercially if they underperform. On the operating model and the team building, we centralized care. We consolidated essentially full ownership and accountability centrally or globally. And then we also built out regional hubs supported by a central back office. We aligned our internal accountabilities, so things like putting vendor management and quality control and training back into operations, so that they had the levers to actually drive continuous improvement in the operation. We built a very strong 24/7 RTM team. It was something that we relied on the markets and the vendors to do previously. But we decided to centralize that and create a very high standard for real-time management. We built a central QA team that was not only looking at agent QA in the way that the vendors would think about it, but also quality management, audit, controls for all of our processes across care. And then we also set up and built from scratch our policy and automation teams, as well as our fraud capability, customer fraud and prevention. On agile ways of working and planning, we introduced agile as a way of working. We aligned our sprints with our dedicated product and engineering teams, developed a practice of quarterly OKRs, and building strategic plans out 24 months in advance. We sped up our testing and our innovation cycles, so we moved our team into the sprints, but we also built a model office for them to, for our engineers to go and build and test things directly with agents near our headquarters, and also for our policy and operations teams to spend time and to pilot initiatives. We built NPS measures, so we did have some form of CSAT before, but we really didn't have a net promoter score, and it didn't really have a system behind it. So we built out feedback loops, daily huddle routines for our front line, coaching practices, rewards, to put voice of the customer at the center of everything that we're doing. And so that's been really important for us, as well as introducing callbacks to customers. And then finally, around performance management and accountability. So we've increased variable compensation for agents, allowing more agents to be eligible for variable compensation each month based on performance. We also, on the other end, began flagging more of our bottom performers and more intensely managing them up or out, so back into performance or out of the business if they don't meet thresholds. Before these changes, we had third-year agents on our campaign who had been with our campaign for 3 years or more, who were in the bottom quartile of our performance thresholds, which just was unacceptable. These are just a few of over about 50 different initiatives that have taken place as part of this transformation. So what do our results look like? So in terms of check-in here, is this a good playbook? Has it worked for us? It has. We've seen significant increases in our NPS for frontline. So we've seen 32 points year on year, 23% reduction in negative comments related to care at a sort of brand level or overall relationship level. Our care customer retention, so we measure the retention of customers who come to care, has increased by 5.5 percentage points year on year. Our service costs, we cut by 45% on a per order basis. And our compensation costs, so the money we pay out to customers based on claims or issues with their orders, declined by 30% year on year. Our overheads as well on a per order basis have been cut in half. So even though we've built a number of new teams as we centralized and restructured the team, we were able to reduce the overall cost of our overheads quite significantly. And our grade of service has improved significantly as well. Days meeting our grade of service year on year, well over 90% at the moment. And that used to be down in the 60, 70 percentile. Our average speed to resolution came down significantly as well as we started bringing the capabilities back into operations to allow them to manage the teams and set up the frontline disciplines. And self-service increased by 27 points year on year as we started to also make significant investments in our order help capability, our digital self-service capability. Very proud of the employee NPS increases. I think we came from a place where people weren't all that proud of what we were able to achieve day to day to now one of the very top performing departments at Deliveroo in terms of employee NPS overall. Very engaged team, which can be hard to do with frontline teams. And in our first year, we had basically no regrettable attrition. Now that's changed since then. So we have had some people since COVID's opened back up, but we have very little problem attracting great talent into Deliveroo. So net, it's been very positive in terms of retention and attraction of new talent. So, all in all, a very positive year, and we're seeing significant further improvements this year. End of year results pending, but the transformation seems to be working. I've talked about a couple of the initiatives and some of the different things that we enacted as part of the transformation. I also wanted to highlight a few principles that have been really important for us, and I think these are principles that can be used not just within customer care and certainly not just in our industry. So these might be the best takeaways here from the session today, given that a lot of the things that you would have heard from me already or will hear from me are specific to the industry and in some cases specific to Deliveroo. I love this quote from Victor Hugo. So, day to day, our opinions may change, our priorities may change, but we need to keep to our principles. And those are essentially our roots. They're the things that help us make good choices when it comes to customer care, customer experience at large, and how we treat our customers. So there are really 4 principles I wanted to underscore today. The first is putting the customer ahead of profits. I'll explain what each of these mean in turn, but essentially prioritizing the customer first and trusting that the profits will follow, and not creating decisions based on profit alone in particular when it comes to customer care, because it's a very easy thing to do. And once you start doing it, it's difficult to back out of it, because it's pretty easy to deliver a little bit of extra savings when you restrict your policies or cut your service levels or make it difficult to speak to an agent. But that's those are bad profits when it comes down to it, because they're at the expense of the customer. The next standard here is around setting standards high and inspecting what you expect. So we had fallen in a trap of assuming that we could not only outsource support and agents, but also outsource our standards and outsource our controls and outsource our capability. We've since rebuilt the capability into our central team at a very high standard. And then we use that ability to properly assess and understand what's going on in the operation and different aspects of it to hold vendors to account and support them, of course, as our partners. And it's in our best interest to make them be successful and support them with being successful. The third principle here is around taking bold two-way door decisions. I'll explain what that means a little bit, but we have a principle whereby, if the decision is a two-way door, in other words, it's easy to retract or come back from, not to spin our wheels endlessly, making a decision, getting on and doing stuff, testing it in the market, again, where it's a two-way door decision. And our pace of innovation has increased significantly as a result. And also it allows you to empower your people to be able to make decisions without always having to consult committees before they're able to do it. And finally, share the care. So, care in particular can be a department that is seen as a problem child, in that it's where all bad things go to die, right? Everything that happens wrong in the operation ends up in the care department at some point. And looking at that from the outside in the organization, it can often look like, oh, there's so many problems in care. Being able to use care as a conscience for the organization in terms of how well they are delivering against upstream operational priorities and customer expectations can be just as valuable a role. And also making sure that the rest of the organization has empathy for what the front line does with our customers every day. So I'll talk to you a little bit about each of these in turn. First, putting the customer ahead of profits. And I wanted to give you one example of where we applied each of these principles as we go through. The first is a game changer for us was being the first competitor in the market to provide customers with automatic compensation for food quality claims. So, for example, cold, spoiled food, customer didn't like the food. these traditionally have not been compensated, not only by Deliveroo, but most players in the market would not be ready to compensate for those things for customers. They would say that's an issue with the restaurant. You should complain to the restaurant. So we took the bold decision that we would essentially reinvest some of our savings. As you heard earlier, within the transformation, we've been able to release a lot of costs and reinvest some of that in delivering a better cold and poor food quality experience. So that's cost us essentially an additional £1 per order. Now you can imagine in our industry that's pretty significant. So our ability to get that prioritized and be supportive of that was not only supported by the executive team, but driven by, in part, the executive team. They were so keen to make sure this was not an area where customers were dissatisfied with Deliveroo. We've also, we moved from 20% of those claims to 80% of those claims being successful, or more than 80%. We still do manage our, casual abuse and fraud, so make sure that customers aren't abusing the ability to claim. But in general, we do honor claims that we think are legitimate. As a result, we have certainly seen an increase in retention. As you saw earlier, our initiatives have driven up our retention out of care. But if you do it on a pure ROI basis, especially on a sort of annual return on investment, it doesn't justify the increase in cost. It was just the right thing to do. And we have a number of examples like this where we've potentially made trade-offs in not moving faster on cost to get customer experience to a standard that we are proud of. Second is setting standards high and inspecting what you expect. So we had kicked off with one of our vendors, as an example, customer callbacks. So when a customer left a negative detractor verbatim and result for our NPS surveys, we would get frontline agents, specialized frontline agents who had been trained to call back those customers, have conversations with them both to learn what went wrong and what we can do better next time, and also to try and recover those customers. We started to inspect those as we were building out our quality team, and we realized that they were not up to the standard that we would want them to be, that we could be proud of as Deliveroo. And so we shut that whole program down for several months as we rewrote the playbook, retrained the agents, and then we sort of incrementally opened it back up with the my leadership team and myself each week attending a session where we would essentially listen to the agents as they did model responses and eventually actual customer calls until we were happy that they could move to the next stage. And so we stage gated the relaunch of this until we got it to a quality standard we were happy with. Happy to say that our retention delta with callbacks is 10%. So we're saving an additional 10% of customers as a result of the callbacks. And overall, on an annual basis, that's a sort of £7 net benefit in terms of profit. So after all the costs and having the agents contact them and additional compensation, it's still very positive for us in addition to the retention delta. The next one was taking bold two-way door decisions. So I'm going to highlight one of these. We were looking at our NPS scores and the experiences we were delivering for our customers worldwide. And what we realized was that our channel experience was not consistent across markets. And in particular, one of our largest markets had a very big delta in terms of NPS across voice and chat. The customers were preferring voice, and even though chat was cheaper, coming back to putting the customer before profits, we made the decision to completely turn off the chat channel. So make it very easy for a customer to go from our order help experience within the app directly into a voice contact with an agent and to get their issues resolved. As a result of doing that, we were able to actually specialize our workforce a bit more. So we had a better sort of productivity benefit from grade of service improving, first contact resolution improving, AHT improving significantly through that. And actually it ended up that this saved us money in the end. So we didn't do it from the spirit of let's do it to save money. In fact, we thought it would go the opposite way, but in the end we delivered cost savings out of this and productivity benefits, and our NPS for that group improved by 14 points in a matter of a month. So fantastic. Customer verbatims, of course, coming through and sort of reiterating the value of that as well. So that was a bold two-way door decision. We didn't pilot our way into that. We didn't, sign it off with an executive committee. We turned it off. We just did it. As soon as we saw the data, we said, let's try this. Within a week, it was done. And we haven't gone back. We haven't gone back because it was such a positive result. Other things we've tried haven't had the impact, and we've reversed those decisions. But that's what we mean by taking these bold two-way door decisions. I guess just a kind of a final thought on that. That's not a license to go, kind of change customer-facing policies or interactions or processes willy-nilly. I mean, one-way door decisions do get the scrutiny they deserve, and one-way door decisions would be things that, for example, reset customer expectations. A big policy change would be one of those. It's difficult once you've rolled out a new policy change to then back away from that policy and say to the customer, sorry, we're not going to give you that money anymore. All right. And then finally, share the care. So I spoke about this a little bit, but one of the things we've kicked off is we enroll every employee to join Deliveroo in We Are Deliveroo is what it's called. We've created an overall brand for it, and then Care Together. And Care Together is care training and joining shifts supporting live customers. So, every level of employee within Deliveroo comes and gets trained and then gets on the chats or gets on the phones with customers or riders or restaurants and starts solving their problems for them using the systems that we've provided. So they get a full kind of feel and sense of what that's like. And as you can see, these quotes from we do surveys at the end of each of these sessions so that we can improve the training and the session. And lots of enthusiasm about experiencing firsthand what it's like to be an agent. Most people in an organization haven't worked on the front line. So giving them that opportunity, feeling good when they actually resolve that customer query, figuring out other issues that happen in the business. So this has been really good, for example, bringing in the technology team or the engineering team, and they can see issues that have happened upstream through the eyes of care, and then take that back as they go and design their next solutions and features in the roadmap. So really great initiative. We also have another example that I didn't put on the slide, but we've created, with our executive escalation, so when Will, our CEO, or me, or somebody else through LinkedIn gets a message from a disgruntled customer, that gets copied into what's called executive escalations, which has our executive team, Will, myself, and then the key people who resolve those issues day to day, all copied in on that. So it's a very transparent chain, and then those get tracked through and resolved. And then when we find particularly tricky ones, we do 1 or 2 page deep dives on those issues so that we can highlight something that might have happened that the commercial org should go work on, or something that the delivery team should go work on, and of course things that care need to internalize and resolve. So it's a very transparent way of sharing the care across our executive team and living our principles. With that, I am going to finish talking now and finish this recorded presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and look forward to do some Q&A with you, and I will be live for that. So thank you very much. Have a great day.